All right, evening. So quick check. You should be able to see my screen as well as hear my audio. Okay, good. If you can hear me, just type a one in the chat, and then we'll make sure everything is fine, and we'll get started. Okay, good. Right. So welcome back to this new week over here. Okay, so very quickly, let me just share with you this PowerPoint slides, especially for those of you who are new. Okay, so this is our weekly market analysis. We do this at the start of the week on Monday, okay, on a regular basis. And of course, okay, we'll be talking about market opportunities, trading opportunities. But I just want to very quickly get you guys be aware, okay, whatever that we're covering today is for educational purposes, okay, and of course, trading and investing involve risk. So if you're actually following some of these trade ideas, and you're actively trading the market, just make sure you're aware of it. Okay, and of course, all these ideas that's shared with you and presented today is just my personal opinion. Yeah. Today's objective, as usual, okay, every week we'll run this. So what we're gonna do is we very quickly look into what has happened in the past week. We're gonna look into what are some of the events to take note of for this particular week. Okay, and then we'll go into the charts, share with you my analysis, some of the opportunities to keep an eye on, and then we'll have a little bit of a Q&A over here as well. Okay, yeah. And then we'll do a little bit of a closing note to share with you some of the upcoming events that we have with Everything Trading and Zenfinix together. So if you're interested and you're able to make it, then you'll be able to register for those events as well. Good. So let's jump into the events calendar. Last week was in fact the very first week of the year. We do have some very interesting move as well. Okay. We do have the NFP coming in last Friday and kind of made I would say a potential reversal in the dollar. Okay. But to me, it's a little bit too early. We'll look into the charts obviously. Okay, later on. But you can see over here the data comes in a little bit of a mix, right? Average hourly earning was worse than expected, but NFP and the unemployment rate is actually better. Okay. However, we did see the dollar actually weakens post NFP event as of Friday. Okay, but as I mentioned, it might be a little bit too early. Later on, when we look into the charts, I'll share with you more detail in terms of my opinion and what I look at. Okay, so that was last week. That was the only event that I think was worth noting. Canadian actually came in pretty strong. That's where we did see the CAD strengthening across board as well. Okay, and of course, if you traded the CAD news, I think it should be fairly easy to make some profits out of that event. Now going into this week, Tuesday we don't really have much. I think the primary focus for the week is going to be on Thursday, 9:30 in the evening. We have this CPI data coming in. Okay, I think this one you all should know by now. CPI year on year is definitely one of the most important data that you need to keep an eye on right now. Okay, moving forward. So the previous data was 7.1, okay, and this time around we are expecting about 6.5, which is not surprising, right? We are actually expecting CPI to fall from now. What the actual data is going to release on Thursday, that's going to be crucial, because if it's going to be like way lower than 6.5, I strongly believe that we can continue to see the dollar weakness continue on, okay, where we're expecting that we'll start to price in the fact that perhaps the federal interest rate doesn't need to be so high, and potentially we'll be starting to talk about how to tackle recession, right, which is the reverse of it, and we'll be talking about quantitative easing or even cutting interest rates soon. Okay, so I think the actual data on CPI year on year on Thursday is going to be quite an important piece of information for the dollar. Okay, so that's going to be happening on Thursday. So have that in mind as well. That's going to create some volatility for the dollar. Good. So with that, let's take a look into the charts, right? So over here, you can see from the dollar index DXY perspective, on Friday itself, that's where we get this drop. Okay, post NFP we kind of rejected, forming a V shape as of now. Okay, and from a technical point of view, from an Elliott Wave perspective, every time we see an impulse move like that, my personal suggestion is always to be at the sidelines, give the market some more time to develop into a clearer setup first. Okay, so right now there's a possibility that we might see this as a 1, 2, 3, as an expanding flat, and if we can get a little bit of a pullback here, then there's a good chance that we can anticipate the dollar to continue falling. Okay, which means that if we can get a decent correction from here onwards, then we'll be holding a bearish perspective on the dollar, and we can then expect more downside for the dollar index, okay, which is the US dollar as a whole. Okay, now to bring your attention to perhaps on the bigger time frame perspective on the larger scale, this is what can potentially be developing. Okay, so from this top here we have our 1, we have 2, and then of course this can be a third wave, right? Internally we have that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This can be a wave 4, and then we can still anticipate wave 5 to come down here. Perhaps they're only a bigger reversal or sort of. Okay, so this is a possible move that can develop even on a higher time frame, which means that overall there are more downside for the dollar, and this level can be reached. Okay, so somewhere around here, giving you around 101.30. But in order for that to happen, the higher probability setup over here is to give it time, as I mentioned, and wait for that development of a corrective structure first. Right now we don't have it. Okay, so just wait, because what can happen over here is it also can be a false break and the market just basically V-shape back up. You don't want to be selling there. Okay, so for now, give it time. And then on the other side of it, we have the euro dollar, okay, which is kind of inverse to the DXY anyway. We're holding a pretty neutral perspective as well, because right now, okay, yeah, just mute it, right? So right now, what we are expecting over here is this can be a 1, 2, 3. We have a strong bounce. So same thing, if we can get a decent correction over here, we can expect more upside for the euro. Okay. So of course, if you don't trade the dollar directly, then you can look into euro dollar, wait for a pullback. Perhaps you time it a little bit with the upcoming Thursday CPI. You can look at it from a news trading perspective to get involved in the buy trade to the upside too. Right, so that's one possible setup. Pound dollar over here, pretty similar. Okay, so most of this pair, because of last Friday NFP, most of these major pairs are basically in an impulsive move. You give it a couple of days, wait for it to come in line, right, with Thursday CPI. By Thursday, if you can see again a decent correction here, upside, right? So be patient, because what can happen is if this just keep going, and Thursday CPI come in, it can just give you that V shape, and you don't want to be in that trade anyway if you don't have a clear setup. Right, so be patient on all this major pairs here. Aussie dollar over here as well, you can see a very strong push. Not the best for now in terms of Aussie dollar. Okay, so on a higher time frame perspective, you can see where we are. We don't really have a very clear structure for me. Okay, so for me, Aussie dollar, just stay out of it. Okay, dollar CAD, you can see over here in the morning, I'm basically expecting two potential scenarios. Okay, one is that from here it can't give us a bounce. Then this will be a corrective structure and we can look for more upside. Alternatively, I was looking for a correction. Okay, if that's going to be a correction, then we can expect more downside. So looking at this structure right now as we're speaking, price seems to have broken this structure trend line, and we broke it quite impulsively. Right. So in terms of how we're going to update this analysis and moving forward, what is something that I'll be looking out for? I'll be changing the overview a little bit. Okay, so let me just draw this in so that it can guide you a little bit in terms of the visual perspective. Okay, so right now we can see it from this perspective where just drawing a little bit over here. Okay, the market kind of broke off this structure. Okay, if I would like to, I can even draw it like that to be clear. It broke off this structure over here, which is your W, X, and Y. And right now, this seems to be coming down, right? So what we want to wait out for in terms of dollar Canadian, right, is that if we can get a pretty decent corrective structure that looks something like that, okay, ideally retesting back into this structure around that level, then you get a decent opportunity to look for sell side. Right? So from a higher time frame perspective, okay, from a daily scale, dollar CAD has a big downside opportunity, right? If you take a look at where we are right now, if this decides to consolidate and then it starts to go, the first level, of course, is the previous structure level here, around 1.32. If that level can break, then you open up a big downside, where you can look for more targets at the bottom. Okay, so I think this year, okay, I mean, not immediately now, but I think this year we're gonna probably get quite a decent opportunity in dollar related move. Okay, so definitely you want to pay very, very close attention to that. We are probably gonna see a transition in this year, 22-3, right? A transition from the topic of inflation, how the Fed is tackling inflation, to potentially how the Fed is going to tackle recession next, right? And that's going to be a transition, there's going to be a shift from a fundamental point of view. And when there's a shift from a fundamental point of view, the overall major trend of a particular currency is going to shift with it too. Okay, now what I mean by that is, going back a little bit to the dollar index, okay, in COVID times, right, where everything is locked down and there is this worry that we might go into a recession, what the Fed did was immediately they cut interest rate very quickly and then they start to introduce quantitative easing. When that happened, it releases a lot of supply of the dollar into the economy and the value of the dollar index drop, okay? And then after that, it causes inflation, and then there will be this inflationary fear and inflationary pressure. And in late 22-1, that's where the Fed shifted its fundamental, right, from an easing policy to a tightening policy. And you can see from 22-1, to majority of the 22-2 period, it basically rallied in terms of the dollar index, right? So that's the fundamental shift, right? So if this time round, going forward, we're going to start talking about recession fear and potentially the Fed is going to talk about quantitative easing again, easing policy, this can easily happen. Okay, of course, it's not going to go straight down, but the big direction is where that shift can happen, right? So you definitely want to keep an eye on the dollar related move. Okay, and then on the dollar yen over here, my suggestion is to give it a little bit more time. Right now, the market is basically trapped in this range-bound environment where we have this 134.50 as the high, and then the previous bottom is around 129.50. The market is basically trading within this right now. You want to give it some time to form a clear setup first, right? So what is a clear setup to me is that if this does a little bit of a pullback, this comes down a little bit like that, this might be a clear setup to take a short-term trade to the upside. Okay, alternatively, if this one does continue back up and does something like that, okay, that's also a clear setup where you can have a potential triple top formation for the potential sell here as well. Okay, so in short, I think you just need to give it some time, right? In terms of all the major pairs, just give it time. There's no need to rush things through. Okay, and then we have gold. Gold is something that I think is quite interesting since late last year. The price pattern that is developing is what we call a crawl. Okay. Yes, overall net gold price has been moving higher, but from a technical point of view, this to me is not a very decent buy opportunity, right? I won't be buying into it. Fundamentally and from a macro perspective, I'm bullish on gold. But from a technical point of view, I'm not interested in buying it yet. Okay, the reason is because from a technical point of view, this setup here suggests there's a good possibility we're going to see a bigger retracement eventually. There's a higher chance of that happening. So I would rather be patient and wait for the pullback before I look for the bigger move to the upside. Okay. Don't get me wrong, this also means that if you're a short-term trader, you are a counter-trend trader, you want to identify some sell opportunities too. Okay. So what's a good way, or we say a conservative way to wait for confirmation is wait for at least a drop, wait for a pullback, okay, and then you expect, when you see this, you expect more downside. Okay, you need to wait for this to be safe if you want to sell it. For me, from a long-term perspective, from a macro perspective, I'm more interested in buying it, right? So I'll be waiting for it to drop, and when I see a setup, right, whether is it going to be a corrective flag, or if this is going to drop lower towards this area here where we have that structure confluence, if you can get a crawl here, then that becomes a potential buy setup around 1773. Okay? So it really depends on how the market is going to retrace. Okay, how is it going to come back down? That would present me another opportunity to be buying. Okay? So I'm not so interested in sell, but if let's say you're a counter trend trader, you can start monitoring for it. Okay, so long term over here, I'm still bullish on gold. I think this one here I've been sharing since like last year, early last year, right? Telling you guys that gold has a very huge opportunity to the upside. Okay, so that entire view remains intact, right? Because that's a long-term play. Short-term, the market never goes up all the time, right? Or it never comes down all the time, right? It's gonna move in waves. So if you're looking for opportunities to buy, to me, this chart pattern is not ready. Okay, you just give it some time. If you're counter trend, look for itself. Okay, so that's on gold. Crude oil over here, what we are seeing right now is that we have a decent pattern, you know, a little bit of a double top structure over here. The market came down impulsively, very nice. It does a little bit of a pullback, coming back close towards this structure level here as well. Okay, so it's a very simple and straightforward setup. Okay, then you can look for a rejection around that 382 and 50% retracement zone, and you can ride this move to the downside, right, for a short-term play. If you're interested to this, I think you can look into maybe on even on a lower scale, lower time frame. Okay, two ways to get involved in a sell. Okay, one is of course a crawl pattern over here. And then you can look for the breakout to the downside. Right, that will be a potential setup, potential entry. Alternatively, you wait for rejection, wait for 1 hour flag, and then you get this pattern. Okay, this pattern again give you a downside opportunity. Then from here, of course, you can look at it from a higher time frame perspective. That is also a bigger correction. Okay, so really depends on the setup that you have as part of your trade plan. Okay, but crude oil for me, as long as right now we're seeing this pattern continue to develop, we're going to hold a bearish bias and we can expect more downside, potentially towards $70.30 or even lower towards $67.30. Okay, so that's on crude oil. Equities, S&P 500. What we are seeing right now is the market doing a very, very decent flat corrective structure. The market has pulled back towards the previous structure level around 3918, which is a very crucial level. Okay, and I would suggest that right now you want to be monitoring how the market is going to react off this level. Now on the lower time frame, it seems that it wants to develop into a what we call a crawl. If this is going to be a crawl, okay, if you're familiar with, let's say, RSI divergence principle, if there's a crawl over here and we can find a divergence happening, there's a good possibility the market is going to reject off that 3918, and from there on we might see more downside on S&P. Okay, how low this can go, of course, we want to monitor the market. Okay, but potentially some key levels to take note of will be the previous structure level around 3763, or potentially the previous level there is going to give you around 3697, right? So if you can get a rejection around here, you can look for short-term play to the downside. Okay, For me, if you want to be long-term bullish on the equities, you need to first see the market break off this trend line. Okay, you need to see an impulsive break, following back a pullback on that. This will open up more upside. Until we see this, I will be very cautious in any long-term bullishness on the equities market. Okay, so just be very careful on that as well. Having said that, to me, I think 22-3 is going to be again a transition year, which means that last year is a bear market. There's a good chance somewhere in mid this year, we're going to transit back into a potential bull market, right, or an early bull market. Okay, so definitely a lot of opportunities that we're going to see in 22-3. Okay, you definitely want to pay close attention to what's developing in the market, and I would say you want to be prepared. Okay, because when it happens, you want to be there, ready to capitalize on all those opportunities that the market present to you. Right, so that's something to note. BTC over here, for those of you who are into crypto, right now what I'm seeing is that there's a good possibility that this can develop into an expanding flat structure. Okay, so if you're looking at Bitcoin or even crypto in general, you want to just be a little bit careful. Okay, be a little bit careful in the buy. Maybe it might go up a little bit more as an expanding flat. It can go all the way to 1618, okay, which will open up around 17450. Okay, that would still be a valid expanding flat. Of course, if you pull kind of fib here, that will give you around 61.8 retracement too. Okay, so keep an eye on that. Okay, if you're short-term trading on the crypto side of thing, you can go to the 1 hour. And again, same thing here. If you can see a crawl going up towards the 17450, then that becomes a potential sell entry, sell setup on Bitcoin. Okay, so there are opportunities available as well in the crypto scene. Okay, if you are interested into that. All good. Okay, so these are some things to take note of for the week. Okay, of course, I think the focus is definitely dollar related because we have the CPI year-on-year data coming in on Thursday. Okay, yeah, so that's a quick overview of the markets. Quick overview of some of the things to take note of from a technical point of view as well. Good. Yeah, so with that, let me very quickly do a updates on some of the things that we have in terms of the promotions that are running with everythingtrading.com as well as Zenfinix. Okay. So over here, for those of you who are fairly new to Zenfinix, Zenfinix is basically a trading broker. Okay. And they are running a promotion right now, right? A deposit bonus. Okay, so what you need to do if you want to find out a little bit more about Zenfinix, more information about this broker, feel free to reach out to their support team directly. Okay, if you're watching this on YouTube, just go over to the description box on YouTube. I have a link that says WhatsApp link. You click on it, it will lead you to directly to the support team WhatsApp. Okay, you can directly ask any questions related to Zenfinix and everything trading. If you're watching on Zoom, okay, the team here will also put up a link, so you can click on it. It will lead you to WhatsApp. You can directly message them. Okay, so this bonus is still ongoing. Okay, if you're new to Zenfinix, you can actually register an account. Verify your account, right? Make a deposit. If you put in $100, you're gonna get $88 credit. If you put in the $200, you get 96. And if you put in a $500 deposit, you're gonna get 140 credit bonus. Okay. On top of that, if today, let me share with you here as well. Okay. Let me open up that. Okay. We are also having this upcoming event. We call it the Traders Dinner and Networking for 22-3. Okay, it's gonna happen on this Wednesday, 11th of January. The venue, the dinner place is gonna be at Upper Deck KL, right? So this is based in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. If you're in Malaysia, KL, on that day, okay, and if you'd like to join in for this traders dinner and networking event, do reach out to the team at Everything Trading and Zenfinix as well. Okay, the same WhatsApp link. Okay, reach out to them. Let them know you're keen. On top of that, we're also gonna have a physical workshop soon in February. Okay, and the workshop content will be on the Elliott Wave Mastery. Okay, which means it's gonna be a full day event, right? It's a full day workshop talking about Elliott Wave technical analysis. So if you want to find out more about all this, okay, again, feel free to reach out to them. Good. Another thing over here is that we have the Zenfinix Trading Dose Telegram channel. Okay, so what's happening in this channel over here is every day I'll post up a chart to share with you a little bit about the markets. Okay, and this is free. So if you'd like to join in and subscribe to this channel, okay, just scan the QR code that is presented over here. It will lead you directly to Telegram channel, and then you just click join the channel, and then you'll be able to receive notification whenever we post something up onto that channel. Good. Yeah, so I hope so far everything is clear. Okay, so yep, generally that's from me for today. Okay, I think again there are quite a number of opportunities available this week, especially on some of these major pairs. What you can do is you align that together with the upcoming CPI that's coming on Thursday, which means from now until Thursday, give some time to the market, wait for it to develop into a setup that you're familiar with, and then during that CPI event, okay, when the data is released, it's going to create some volatility in the market. If it confluences in terms of your trading setup, okay, then that would be a perfect scenario to be involved in trades, right? And the good thing about news trading is, of course, that volatility will help you, right, in a fairly short period of time, be profitable, okay, in that particular trade, right? And then you can easily manage the trade, shift your stops, protect your profit, and things like that. Okay, so that's gonna be the focus for this week here. Okay, and last but not least, of course, just a reminder, if you're interested in any of those bonuses, promotions, or events that we're gonna have this week and moving forward into February, feel free to reach out to the support team from Everything Trading and Zenfinix. Good. Yeah, so all the best for this week trading. If there's nothing else, then we'll conclude today's session over here. Okay, and for those of you who are joining on Wednesday, we'll see you on Wednesday. Okay, if not, then we'll see you guys next Monday as usual here again. Good. Okay, so see you guys. Bye.